Which two-stroke oil do we use for our motors? Is high-octane fuel better? Should you avoid ethanol in the fuel? Should you use avgas, for example? Answers in this video. Aluminium, it fits. Welcome to Scout Paramotor video manuals. We are here to improve your Scout experience and share some science with you. We mostly use Vittorazi Moster Plus engines, and the manual says 2.5% of two-stroke oil. A few years ago I talked to Matteo Orazzi from Vittorazi, and he told me that he did a long-term test with the Motul 800. This is it, Motul 800, and he tested it at 1% with excellent results. Engine was nice, clean, no buildup, and so on. He just told me, yeah, to be sure, just use it 1.5%. And since then, we fly all our engines, even on our trips to Iceland, Spain, and other places, we fly with Motul 800 1.5%, and this is what we recommend to our customers. The rule is simple. 1.5 of this one and only this one. Anything else, use 2.5%. But we use this one only. It's a bit more expensive, but it consumes less, so it's kind of even. Guys, please don't confuse it with Motul 710. That's a different oil. If you use that one, make it 2.5%. Now, there are two versions of this oil. One has a street bike on it and the other one has a dirt bike on it, but it's basically the same oil, just the color is different. Any of those will be fine. We use the dirt bike, it's red and it's clearly visible through the fuel tank, so it serves the purpose. Question: is high-octane fuel better for your motor? Now, I discussed this with Matteo Orazzi, and he told me that they did measurements and they didn't find any improvements due to high octane number. High octane fuel will not make your engine run better, you will not have more power, and you will not reduce the fuel consumption. What he found out is that the quality of the fuel matters, not the octane number. And he recommends to use high octane fuel, not because of the octane number, but because you have higher chances to buy good quality premium fuel if you buy the high octane one. So whenever possible, I take the high octane. If not available, I take a regular 95. One final note to the oil mixture: 1.5 and 2.5% refer to the normal operation. During braking period, you need to increase the oil ratio, but that's a different video. Question: should you avoid using ethanol in your paramotor? People may be scared of ethanol content in the fuel, but it seems like it's not really a big issue. I found two research papers on this topic. In one study, they were comparing burning fuel and pure ethanol, 93% ethanol in two-stroke engines, and they actually realized that the ethanol engine was running with better lubrication, had better power and lower fuel consumption than the one burning fuel. I found another study by the Beijing Forestry University in China, where they were measuring the performance of engines, two-stroke engines, with 10% ethanol added and 20% ethanol added. And interestingly, when the content of ethanol was 10%, the engine torque and power was the maximum. So actually ethanol helped to increase the power of the engine. When the ethanol content was 20%, the fuel consumption was the lowest. So it seems like the ethanol in our fuel helps the performance. Now, there might be some issues eventually with corrosion. Ethanol is said to eventually increase corrosion of the engine, and also it causes the membrane of the carburetor to degrade and get stiffer earlier. If using ethanol in the fuel, it would be smart to do the service on the carburetor a little bit earlier. Other than that, it seems like we don't need to be scared of the ethanol in the fuel. If you have any other topic or idea, or you came across any other research paper on this topic, I would be really curious. Please add a comment below in the video. Oh, one last note. These scientists found out that starting of the engine below 10 degrees was a little bit more difficult with the ethanol in the engine compared to pure fuel. I found an interesting recommendation on the Husqvarna website. So Husqvarna recommends to use only fully synthetic oil if you use ethanol in the fuel. So again, with the Motul 800, you should be safe. Question: is avgas good for your paramotor? Now honestly, I don't have much experience with avgas. It's kind of an American thing. We don't have avgas available here in Europe. I did use avgas on my Icarus Trophy. I didn't notice any problems, although Byron and Ryan reported that they had the need to replace the spark plug earlier when using avgas. In general, avgas is made for bit different engines. Avgas is made for engines that run at low RPM, and this is not our case. We rev our engines pretty high, so if possible, I would rather suggest to avoid that. But I did use avgas and I didn't have any immediate problem, but it was only for a short time, probably only a week. Final notes on the oil and fuel mixture. Some tips how to mix it. Rule number 1, guys, keep it clean. Keep the canister clean. When you remove the fuel cap, don't put it on the ground into the dust. Keep it clean. Keep the fuel hose always clean. That's the rule number 1. Secondly, when it comes to the procedure of mixing fuel, I found a weird recommendation on the Husqvarna website. Fill the canister half, then add fuel, and then top up with fuel to the top. Now, we don't really do that. What we do, we add oil first, and then as we are pouring fuel in from the gas station, I hope and assume it will all mix up very well, because there will be kind of a whirlpool in the fuel tank, and it works fine. I have a basic rule: I only have mixed fuel in the canister. Never have unmixed fuel, simply so you don't confuse, because if you have fuel mixed and unmixed in 2 different canisters, it may easily happen you take the wrong one and you don't notice it and you seize the engine. So in my world, only mixed fuel, never unmixed. But that's a different situation, because we burn a lot. We go to these trips and we sometimes burn 200 liters a day. And if we don't burn it, we burn it on the next day. And if we don't burn it, we'll burn it on the next trip, will be 2 weeks later. So having mixed fuel for us is not a problem. For home use, for individual use, mixing fuel, large volumes of fuel, could be a problem, because you should not store mixed fuel for a very long time. And actually, it's not the oil making problems, it's actually the fuel eventually making problems. So I would suggest mix just as much as you need for the flight, and don't use the fuel in your paramotor if it's more than, I don't know, 2-3 months old. Avoid that. So let me summarize our oil fuel practice. We use Motul 800. During the break-in, it's 2%. After braking, 1.5%. Super happy. If possible, I buy the premium fuel. If not, I go with a 95 octane fuel. I don't really strive to avoid ethanol content, so if it's available with ethanol, I'll take it, and never had issues. No experience with avgas, or very little, so I cannot make recommendations on that. Keep the fuel tank clean. Avoid confusion, so you either have only mixed fuel or only unmixed fuel, but never 2 canisters that you could eventually confuse. And the final note, avoid using fuel that it's more than 1 month old. Guys, thanks for watching. You can find these and other videos on scoutparamotor.com/support. Send us an email if you need more information. We are here to help you. Have fun and enjoy. So all the bolts are screwed in.